Hello and welcome everybody to the Novocastrian live number 6 with Caleb Lamont. How's it going, Caleb?
Going good.
Yeah? How's the weather where you are?
It's not bad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's been so weird. I mean, we had one of the warmest bonfire nights here. But right now, a cold front's just come in and the weather is as dismal as this country's psychological state, basically. um, it's terrible. So this episode I've called The Hidden History of the Roman Frontier in Northern Britain. That's the hidden history of the Roman frontier in Northern Britain. And I actually see this as an addendum to the work we did in previous weeks. I also wanted to say what a fantastic job you did on gathering those quotes. It was only afterward I realized just how they connected in subtle ways, and it's almost as if my mind was filling in the gaps along the way. The more work I did on it and research, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's really incredible to have you on board, and I just wanted to show my appreciation for that. You know, it's I don't do it enough. So, but also thank you for Jen's contributions as well. She's been fantastic support. She's really helped us along. So yeah, just a thank you to her too. We've got lots on the way. I have content coming out for paid subscribers only. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing this work. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my Substack. It should be in the description of the video. It will be. And also, yeah, it's a really incredible thing, the amount of support I'm getting at the minute. And we had one of our most successful restreams last night, and that was fantastic. It's we had so many people on there chatting and contributing, and one of our biggest viewer turnouts as well. Now we used to do presentations on Skype, but we can't do that anymore. Skype doesn't exist. So so we're going to have to wing it a little bit, because I could bring up a slideshow on there. Can't do that now. So we're going to have to improvise a little bit. Who knows? Maybe at some point we'll all this stuff will end up in a proper presentation. And no doubt, maybe an article or two will come out with this as well. But yeah, where I am, nobody's having conversations like this. No one really cares. They're too distracted. But anyway, so getting into it, last night, Caleb was looking at something to do with changing timelines, and it was a strange synchronicity for me, because this today is all about that, the changing of the timelines and how long it's been going on for, and just what that does. And also this ties into the this, let's say, for lack of a better phrase, the magical matrix of the Druids that we've been looking into so far.
Who was talking about that?
The changing of the timeline.
Yeah, who was talking about that?
Oh, I do believe you accidentally posted something last night, and it was weird, because it so totally ties into what I was researching at that time. It's just a strange synchronicity.
I don't recall that. and I don't normally subscribe to that kind of idea, but if you could try to remind me, maybe I could make a
it was
comment on that.
it was a computerized image, or somebody had photoshopped an image of someone on a bridge, and it was show. Yeah, you remember that now, huh?
Right. No, I accidentally sent that to our group chat, and I thought it was my private chat with my friend. We've been looking at this event, this news, and it was basically, it was just saying that this video was completely doctored and everything, like they had a expert looking at it and saying that there were ways to tell that this video wasn't a genuine thing, but I don't want to get on that whole subject right now. But as far as timelines go, you know, um, I'm kind of more in agreement with Matt Presti's sort of um that's not even a possibility, to like
Oh yeah.
right.
Oh,
But
totally legit. Yeah, I
that's
know
what
what
he's
you're saying. I
talking
agree.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear people talking about timelines and like time travel or whatever. But timelines that I'm interested in is actually like taking notes when you're researching and writing those dates down, and then after you've been collecting your notes for a long time, going through different research, you can take and organize all those into a proper timeline, and it helps you in your research. It's funny because when I was I'd guess in the 8th grade, um, in history class, we were reading out of the textbook, and on the course of one page, it would be talking about some stuff that was happening in the 1860s. And then halfway down the page is talking about stuff going on in the 1770s. And then in the next page, it's in the 1812, and then it's down to like, so it's jumping back and forth. And I told my teacher, do you expect me to learn this when it's jumping back and forth in time? It should all be in order, if it's history, And he's like, no, I do expect you to understand it. And I'm like, but, you know, as the research continues, um, and you've sort of worked out the timelines more and more, it doesn't pose such a big deal. You can kind of hop around, hop, skip, and jump back and forth in time a little more, and it doesn't get you confused or anything.
Well, the changing of the timelines I'm thinking of is not an actual changing of the timelines, which is impossible. But it is an attempt to change the record and to avoid the record even being written. And one of the things that we're going to look at today, starting off anyway, is this book here. It's the history of Freemasonry in Wallsend. We're just going to flick through it and look at some of the pictures and talk about some of these banners that are in this book for the lodges, because they're very interesting. Are you going to say something, bro?
Guardian says, hi, greetings from Germany. Hello.
Guten Tag. But yes, the history of Freemasonry, and one of the things I started realizing when I was looking through this book is just So some of their banners, the iconography they use on these banners, relates to mysterious subjects in and around the Northeast, as it would. And then I got to thinking, yeah, is this the same way for Freemasonry around the UK? Do Freemasons, especially the local ones, do they gatekeep a lot of the local secrets? And even to these lower initiates, they only get to see the banner iconography. They don't actually know about these secrets. And as they slowly ascend through the levels, maybe they'll be drip fed a little bit more, maybe some of these aspects of their banner lodge iconography start to make a bit more sense. They start to connect a few dots in their heads. And but if you are not a Freemason and you aren't privy to this sort of knowledge, you have to go digging and you have to make your own connections and connect the dots yourself. So that's what we're going to do today in context of the Druid Wars parts that we did in the previous weeks. So, but first up, we have the Time Lodge. This fella here is called the Time God. And the Time God, you can see there, he has a serapis, I think it's called a carapace on his head, which is a basket, and it's set aflame, just like the old goddesses like Cybele used to have certain depictions of Cybele. They'd have crenulated towers, but they could sometimes also have a carapace on their head, and Serapis, an ancient Greco-Egyptian god, would also have this on his head too. If you notice there, Caleb, he has ginger hair, right? You see that? Red hair, right? And as we know from Ralph Ellis, the ancient Greeks, the pharaohs, and their families and their descendants all had this similar red hair right there. This has numerous different dedications to it in the civics, in the civic architecture in Britain. In Newcastle. There is a wooden bas relief in the library, the central library in Newcastle, with this very icon on it. He has other symbols there. He has the spade and the pickaxe. Comyns Beaumont will tell you that the pickaxe was once a symbol of Pluto. Basket of coals. Coal would have been seen as a mineral from him, as a gift from the god Pluto, from deep underground in the underworld. And there is a statue at the Civic Centre called the Time God, which we'll get into later. But he sits upon the Civic Centre. His arm is up here. One arm is down here, pointing down. And his hand's like this. And he's a fountain. He sprays. In his heyday, they've turned it off now, but in his heyday, it sprayed water on him, almost like he was being baptized, or he was raining on himself, like the rain god. He's called the river god Tyne. This particular statue is called the river god Tyne. And we'll talk more about this later. But it's just interesting. Also, yeah, the icon I use for my Substack is the Time God as well, which is an interesting synchronicity. There is another one as well. I'm trying to remember it. Oh yes, of course. Next to the quayside, there's another Time God, and this guy, he's standing on a massive pool. I'll show this later. This is one of the pics I didn't prepare that I forgot about. Standing, he's on this. It's just basically the upper torso of this guy, and he's standing. He's perched upon this massive pool near the quayside, right near a major bridge, and he's holding a club, and it's like the Greek god Triton. and he's blowing. He's blowing in the direction of this other statue in the exact same kind of style. Quite big, like gigantic, almost like they are giants. And he's blowing his essence to the siren, to this female statue. And this isn't far from Pandan. In fact, this is just down from Pandan as well. So anyway, moving on. Later on, we'll get back into that. Now, we came upon some interesting facts the other day. Let's have a look here. All right. Jude was there. Let's go right at the top. Okay. Let's see if I can find another interesting banner. There we go. Wallsend Lodge. We got let us rise up and build. But who did the building though? Right? What's on there? Don't know if you can see that. It's the man in the castle. Rise up and build. And we got some of the fellas here in the lodge. We have the Neptune Lodge, which in ancient times was called the Earth Shaker. There was altars dedicated to Neptune on the Tyne. They were actually found on the bottom of the Tyne. Again, near a sacred stream that used to flow through the town, which is now infilled. Interesting, a little tidbit here. Families sleep while Masons HQ burns, so their headquarters burned. I wonder if that's because they were messing with things they shouldn't have been. With their form of magic. Wallsend Blaze. I love going through this book. It's as we go on, just some incredible stuff in here. If you have anything you want to say,
yeah. There's a phoenix in Wallsend.
The coat of arms for Wallsend is a phoenix on the wall, on Hadrian's wall. And let me see if I can get this up here. There. Phoenix on the wall. Now, Phoenix doesn't mean much unless you know the iconography it refers to and where the phoenix appears in Roman iconography. The Roman phoenix refers to the Elagabalus stone, and the Elagabalus stone is a meteorite that I can't remember if it's the Severus family. The Severus family kept. It was the emperor, the Roman Emperor Severus Septimus, and his family and his descendants kept a huge meteorite stone with a phoenix on it. and this phoenix, you can actually see it on the coins as well of Severus Septimus's descendants. And I can just show that to you now. See it very clearly there. The phoenix on the Elagabalus stone. And there's Elagabalus, descendant of Severus Septimus. And this stone went missing. And it ended up in Scotland. And then it eventually ended up in Buckingham Palace, where it got stolen again. And it's thought to be somewhere in Scotland again. Now, why is this significant? Well, in Pandon, there's a huge egg, like a dragon egg. It's a glacial a sculpture made out of glacial stone. It's got hexagrams all around it. It looks like a dragon egg or a reptilian egg. But we know from the Elagabalus stone that this also refers to ancient meteorites, which were actually worshipped as deities. Elagabalus, that isn't just the name of a Roman emperor; it's the name of the deity that they assigned to the Elagabalus stone. It's actually an Arab sun god. It comes from El Jabal, meaning the god of the mountain.
What's the name of the Pandon stone again?
Give and take.
And how far is the Pandon stone from Wallsend?
It's around 6 miles.
So
Wallsend is where Hadrian's war ended. They didn't build any further east after that. And Wallsend is to the east of Newcastle. And
right,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that given the size of that little plaza or grove or hinge, sorry, I'm looking for the picture of the Pandon stone and it's not pulling up this time.
Oh, hold on. I've got it here. I'll get it up for you.
Okay.
You go ahead and talk.
Yeah. So,
there it is.
On sort of so this stone here, if the resolution gets clarified a little bit, you'll see the hexagonal pattern around it.
It's super clear on here. It will be on the final product. I think it's just coming through bad on your end because it's because of your thing, that's all.
Okay. So the the Elagabalus stone was a stone that had a net placed over it. So that's how they stylized it. Was the stone itself had a net over it. Now, if you look at a fish net these days, a fish net is hexagonal pattern because of the way that they lace it together. So that stone, by having that hexagonal pattern on it, is like a stylistic statement to say, it's like a stone with a net over it, essentially. And the Elagabalus stone was always depicted with a phoenix, but you don't see a phoenix in that photograph there. But just the idea that you have this plaza here, this large, hinge, civic center sort of area, and the next town over has the coat of arms featuring a phoenix. It's essentially saying Eligabal stone and phoenix. So it's the same image. You know, you just have to zoom out to see the whole image.
Pandan was built on the walls. They called it the wall null, and it's in the ancient the Bede Chronicles, where he talks about the ancient Anglo-Saxon kings being converted on the wall null. And there's a lot of arguments between the chroniclers in Newcastle. They don't know whether the wall null is the Pandan or somewhere else. But despite that, it doesn't matter. Regardless, it's relevant because Hadrian's Wall was built along that line. I mean, it's about 30 to 50 meters away from the spot of Pandan, so like it's directly adjacent. And going from that line to Wallsend will connect you to that town. So it's and of course, as we were saying last week, Newcastle was the major spot where the Druids would come and congregate. You know, it's interesting. There's a place called Crook in Durham, which is just south of here. It's west of here. And in this place in this small little country town, there is a meteorite stone in the center of the town where the council is, and it's called the Devil's Stone, and it's rumored to have all kinds of stories attached to it. It's very ancient. You know, it's almost the landmark of the town. This marked the town where people would congregate. So this is a habit all the way throughout England as well. It's ubiquitous, as Harold Bailey would say. These things, whenever they're marked with devils or with other names like this Smith, I can't remember his name now. No, I have to go back on that one. I can't remember it. But they are ubiquitous, and even in Jersey as well. I think it was like the Devil's Mount or the Devil's Pond or something like that. There's a statue of Pan there, right in the middle of this pond in Jersey. So there's that. And I do believe that this is mimicking that very same motif. Is that the Druids would do that. I mean, if you're talking about the net appears in Newgrange, doesn't it, Caleb? Do you want to talk about that for a sec? The grid line, the net on the stones, temple.
Yeah, I don't think of it as a net so much, but yeah, they have some sort of pattern on it for sure. What do you think is the if you could like visualize Newcastle and the region of Newcastle, the Tyne River and everything before the Romans ever showed up? What do you sort of see being the significance of that place before Hadrian's Wall, before Romans even came there?
The Denham Tracts tells you, and it's quite cheeky, and really, and it only gives you a few lines, but it says they congregated there to sort out negotiations between warring clans. They would congregate there in case there was an invasion, so they could rally their forces and rally the clans to get involved, to fight off the invaders. I also see it as a market traffic place, a major where people would congregate to sell their wares, to make money, obviously. But I also think, just as the Eye of the North book that I have, Archaeological Assessment of Newcastle upon Tyne, talks about how there was probably a major stone circle or henge complex there, just like there is at the Thornborough Henges in North Yorkshire, which the main road from Newcastle, the most ancient route, takes you all the way to there.
So
Go on.
you made
I'll save the fun a bit because I'll have to talk about it anyway.
you made a recent journey up to Cumbria, and you messaged me and you said it was you saw the stars for the first time, and I saw that message and I'm like, what? But the light pollution these days, you have to go out of your way to get somewhere that's dark enough to see the Milky Way and everything, so you got have, I guess I would wonder, is Newcastle sort of halfway between Cumbria and Thornborough? Oh, you'll have to remind me of the name. The one you just mentioned, Thornborough Henge. Is
Yeah.
that was
No, Thornborough Hedges is south. The
yeah.
midpoint between Cumbria and Newcastle, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a fair way there. I don't think so actually. I don't even think this is the midpoint, but which we will talk about in a bit because we're going to talk from Comyns Beaumont soon, and we're going to talk about
Well, you
Coventry
felt
as well.
that when you were in Cumbria and there was uh, enough darkness and lack of light pollution to actually see the night sky in its purity. You felt like the landscape itself and the structures built upon it all oriented towards the Milky Way. So, um, with Thornborough Henge, have you been to Thornborough Henge at night? And does it have the same lack of light pollution? Are you able to sort of get a sense of what it's like there? And
Yeah.
do you feel like Newcastle, if you had a massive power outage there and you were actually able to see everything, or if you could just imagine what it would be like in Newcastle without light pollution, what would the landscape there be oriented towards?
I think Cumbria is a different kettle of fish. As there's a temple site there called Temple Somerby, and I think they chose that specifically because because of its location and its importance to the ancient Druids in in those times. I haven't been in the Thornborough Hedges at night. I've been there twice during the day, and I can tell you that if it's a clear night, it's completely out in the sticks, out in the countryside. If it was a clear night, you will be able to see the stars easy. You'll be able to see the whole misty Milky Way. And yeah, just to clarify, I'd obviously seen the stars before. That even in the cities here, you could still see the stars, but I didn't see them like I did that time when I went to Cumbria. I mean, it felt like they were right on top of me, and I could see them so clearly, and I could see so many of them. It was so dense. The more I looked, the more I could see. They kept on appearing. It was magnificent. I could see the Milky Way for the first time. Um, so yeah. I mean, it was something incredible. I wish I could spend some time up in Thornborough Hedges at the night, but in Newcastle, yes, I don't think it's ever been such a clear night. If you're in the city in Newcastle, you're not looking at the stars. If you're looking at the stars in Newcastle, you're going to see mostly black. If you're standing in like Pandon and things like that now, because it's completely built over, and it's right in the center of town, so you're not going to see much. Um, as for the the course of the river and how it aligns with the stars, and maybe we could see something like that in the landmarks. I haven't really looked at that. Um, as I said, maybe that's because of the light pollution. It's just never occurred to me to look up and to align these things. I know there's some geomancy involved. because all the churches in Newcastle seem to line up with each other. And as you look over the cityscape, you can see them sort of aligning in a row. Sometimes you can really see that they would plan this out so they dominate the landscape. So there's definitely some geomancy involved, especially with these extra civic structures that they built over the past, I'd say 50 years. The ones we've been mainly talking about. That glacial stone there, that was built within the last 20 years. That is not an old thing. So they're still doing this. They're still building these weird features. But yes, getting back to it though, this stone, the give and take stone, the glacial dragon egg, it's a symbol of power, purely on its own. And if you even just associate that with stones like that, which were held sacred because they were seen as gifts from the sun god, right? And on the Wikipedia, if you go on Wikipedia, it tells you about Elagabalus, and it says, "Oh, it's some sort of sun god." And I'm like looking at the coins, and I'm thinking, "Oh, there's some sort of sun god depicted on the stone," and I'm like, "But it's a bird. You can see it, and anyone can if they actually look up the Elagabalus coins. It's all over that thing. They've got it in a big chariot, and this thing was quite big. Needed 4 horses to carry it to pull it along." And the coins with the most detail on it, you can see the phoenix rising out of it. Well, why? Why is there a phoenix coming out of the coat of arms in Newcastle, right? Sorry, in Wallsend, in the coat of on the coat of arms of Wallsend, there is a phoenix arising out of Hadrian's wall. But the phoenix wasn't one of Hadrian's icons. It wasn't one of his heraldic emblems, at least not to my knowledge. The phoenix belonged to the Septimus family, and I can never remember which is the forename or the surname, so I might be butchering that. But what is this indicating then? If there's a phoenix arising out of Hadrian's wall, does this mean that Hadrian didn't really build the wall? So something interesting to talk about. But anyway, let's just fill out the details a little bit more before we start digging into quotes. At its most nuanced, the give and take stone, it hides a big secret. As a pure on its own, it means it's power, it's money, it's people's energy. We're collecting it all here, as we said in previous episodes. It's in the financial district of Newcastle. So anyway, Comyns Beaumont said Severus Septimus built Hadrian's wall, and his heraldry was the Elagabalus stone. It's in his it belonged to his family, and then there's on this Elagabalus stone there's a phoenix on the stone arising from the stone. And what is a phoenix, by the way? They said it was on the Wikipedia. It says that it's a sun god. Well, the phoenix rises out of the ashes and then dies, but then it rises again. It's always doing that. What does that remind you of? The sun, right? Where the wall ends to the east is called Wallsend. The old coat of arms for Wallsend is a phoenix ascending from out the wall. And as we know, Ralph Ellis will attest that that the bird on the stone is a phoenix. And this is where I learned about these curious facts about the Elagabalus stone. So the Pandan stone is probably definitely a reference to the Elagabalus stone, as you pointed out last night. but they're also playing with a kind of dragon egg idea as well, right? So strange. Can we find any more interesting ideas about the dragon egg? I wonder how it's connected to all this. I wonder, right? I mean, I did make a video called "The Dark Side of the Dragon," and talked about how comets were always seen as a dragon, or many times like a serpent coursing through the sky. So there's that as well. And yes, the Elagabala stone was meant to be a meteorite. It was meant to have magical powers. Now, Tim Refack talked about
So it was about the dragon and the comet. For instance, the Michael Desarian talks about how the lions on coat of arms shouldn't really necessarily be thought of as lions, because a lot of the times you can tell that it's more like a dragon. It has dragon-like features, right? The claws and the curls and everything. But the dragon is the comet as well. So to me, this kind of like looks like a dragon comet, but it's a lion, so that's how they blend symbolism together. And to have that rock with the net, which tells you that it's the Elagabal stone nearby to the Phoenix, but to stylize it as a dragon's egg, yeah, it makes it tied to the comet idea, because you said it's an igneous rock that they made it out of. They didn't go and get a meteor, to make it out of. So they had to do something to make it related to a meteor. So they said, "Well, do it as a dragon's egg. That'll make it. That'll add that element to it."
I think it is made out of igneous stone. To be honest, it says glacial stone, but I think it is. I think it's made out of some kind of marble. And yeah, but going back to your iconography, just quickly, of the lion on the Fabian Society do something similar with the wolf. And the wolf always goes back to Fenrir, where he was always the one who heralded the catastrophe, the Ragnarok. And the way they style that wolf on the Fabian Society flag is the same. It's a very, very sort of like streaming comet across the sky. It's its claws look like licking flames coming from the comet. And also the Fabian Society, they play with comet symbolism anyway on their stained glass. I mean, they have guys actually hammering the earth, and if you actually have a look at the hammers, they look like they are doing the action of what comets do or meteorites do, hammering the earth. Bam, bam, bam. Which is what meteorites do. They slowly over time reshape the earth. Comets as well, especially in the past, ancient past. But that's a whole other discussion for another day. And I'm writing an article now which actually goes into some of this as well. But yeah, getting back to it though. So this magical stone was magnetic, according to Ralph Ellis. According to Ralph Ellis, there was reports of you couldn't go near this thing with any metallic objects. But I think that it was in some kind of old historians thing that when they went into this place, they had to take all their stuff off, out of reverence for the deity and all that. But it makes more common sense that if you're taking all your metallic objects off, your swords, your belts, your shields, your armor, that you're taking them off because you don't want it to stick to this thing because you won't get them back, or you'll have to cut them off. So there's that. But let's go to Tim Refack, right? Because what I like about Tim Refack, and what I always liked it from the beginning, was that he kind of explained magic in very scientific terms. He talks about it as vortexes, and people like Bill Gates and also Bill Gade, and Walter Russell, they talk about torsion fields, they talk about vortexes, they talk about energy fields that are always present. And magnets are a great way to demonstrate this. If you put iron filings around a magnet, you will see the magnetic field there, and you will see that there is constantly something going on, drawing in these filings, and when you manipulate the magnet, they will move with it. And I'm thinking, so this must be, they must have been able to use this stone. We were talking last night about how the megaliths, and last week as well, we were talking about how the megaliths could have been used also as ways to help the Druids, an apparatus to help the Druids astral project to increase their influence, their magical national influence on the country they ruled over the but at one point supposedly the whole planet, if they had these whole things connected up, it would greatly increase their power and reach. So what is it about this stone? Did it aid the first occultists in understanding how they could use this power, instead of it being a subtle device that was just there, like most stone circles are, very subtle, just there, no fanfare. Whereas with the Elagabala stone, there's coins, there's references in the history books. They paraded this thing around on chariots. They milked this thing for all it's worth. They milked this dead horse for all it's worth. They had their people in awe of it, fixated on it. Their egos gassed up the knowledge that they were the keepers. They were the people who had the sun god's gifts. They were blessed. But purely on a scientific level as well, there could have been something in it, in this stone, which taught them many things about the science of the occult arts and how to employ them. So is that wrong?
Oh yeah, and the techniques and everything are going to be different depending on the nervous disposition of the person, and it could equally be said as well of the overall disposition of the cult. So, in other words, the nervous disposition of the Druids thousands of years ago was, as evidenced, in the records. Get this book, Irish Druids and Old Irish Religions, and you'll know that the character type of that type of person is quite different than anything we see today. So they weren't overstimulated, like we are, but I mean, like, even to a greater extent. So you could say that compared to 100 years ago, we're very overstimulated. You get Stefan Molyneux. I remember him saying before that there's more of a difference in terms of like the experience of his upbringing versus the experience of his daughter's upbringing than there is between the experience of his upbringing and the experience of Socrates' upbringing. In other words, Stefan Molyneux, if he was born, I'm not sure. I'll look it up real quick. When was Stefan Molyneux born? 66. So he's born in 1966. So born in 1966, and his upbringing was more similar to Socrates in ancient Greece than than his daughter's experience in childhood, because of all the progression, like the iPads and the and all this kind of stuff, the advertisements, the TV programs, the experience of school, and all this kind of thing. So, in other words, you know, those kind of differences. But the difference of a druid versus a Socrates might be even greater because of the type of ways that they had. You know, uh, I think in this book it describes quite a ascetic type of existence. Like a monk type of existence on steroids, but more nature uh, immersive. So they talk about these dolmens where you have the two rocks here and then the rock over it. Like it talks about them sitting under there, exposed to the elements, in perfect silence for with no food and no water, just sitting there for weeks, and just um, you know, so this kind of thing. So the occultism of those types of people is going to have the ability to um, detect these fine, subtle energies and uh, things, But the occultists that we have today, uh, they're so dense that they have to, use drugs, these extreme methods, and you see like you said in Newcastle, there's all this occult architecture and everything, but it's so fucking bright and loud you can't see the stars, and there's no nature to be seen in for miles. So the occultism is a whole different animal these days. It's psychopathic. So there may be some connection there, but it's really two completely different animals.
Yes, but you touched on something there which I wanted to talk about in the very beginning. Is that let's face facts. The Romans came here and they needed help. They must have gotten help from Druids. They must have gotten help from people who were in the know. I don't know whether these were already corrupt or became corrupt because they saw the way the tide was changing. Perhaps these were the more darker groups that were already using a lot of their knowledge to subdue their own people and keep them in fear. Just like we see in all kinds of other places as well, ancient Egypt as well. That is another place where if you go on unslaved, there are literally shows telling you about how the Jews became corrupted and they were kicked out of Egypt numerous times. The particular sects of the Aryan class, let's say, were kicked out. The ones who were up to no good. And the Romans, they could go in there and they could make deals because that's what they were like the Trump of their time in a way. And that's not to hate on Trump or anything. It's he does some marvelous work with what he's got to contend with. But when did Druidism become corrupted like that? We have to face up to these facts. We have to also understand that the fact that this did happen, they tell us as well in the Freemasons the Freemasonry Lodge in Wallsend, their banners tell us as much. How to disrupt the power nodes, how to disrupt the flow of the influx of traffic, people, trade, but also psychic energy as well, and how to cut up and divide the lands appropriately, and how to even hide the fact that you did it, and to even more to confuse it even more. They've misnamed it all too and attributed to people that it should not have been attributed to, as we'll see. Moving on. So here we have the Sedge Dunham Lodge, I basically call the Mithras Lodge. And the Mithras Lodge, as you can see there is, oh, hold on. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it there. It's very tough. Come on, focus in there. That is an altar to Mithras. He is bursting out of the cosmic egg. There are zodiac signs around him, and he is actually coming out of an egg. There's the shell up on the bottom of him, and at the top there's a little bit of shell. It looks like a helmet. He looks like a bit like a mushroom coming out of an oval. And this is the Sedge Dunham Lodge. I wonder if you can come into focus a little bit better that way. Yeah. What a magnificent banner, right? Give me a sec. I'm going to get a better picture of this altar. Oh dear, what's going on there? Ah, my keyboard fell down. Okay. 1 second. We are. Oh, darn it. Let me have a look here. Where was that? Here we go. Down the bottom here. Yeah. Oh, where is it? There. Okay. There we are. This is the first zodiac introduced into Britain, and it was found on Hadrian's Wall. I only learned that last night. I didn't realize that it was the first zodiac, supposedly. I don't think it is the actual first zodiac. I mean, if you look at the stone circles in England, you can tell that they were the first zodiacs and that they trained their neophytes into which signs meant which, and they would, and it was all it was all word of mouth. It was bardish rhymes and bardish songs, which they held and contained all of this knowledge. This is Mithras breaking out of the cosmic egg. And what was the cosmos figured as at one time? What was the earth figured as at one time? Well, it was figured as a dragon, right? So we have the Eggman, or the Egg God, Mr. Mithras here, and we have an egg in Pandan. We have a dragon egg in Pandan. So that, again, these interesting coincidences keep cropping up. Let's move on, because it gets more interesting. Let's take a look now. We talked about the council chamber last week. Did I actually download that picture? Yes, I did. Here it is. So I talked about the council chamber last week. And this is the council chamber. And it also looks like a sort of like an egg, or it looks like the beginning stages of the Amanita muscaria mushroom, which looks like an egg, almost like it has like an egg shape to it. And the people going into this building, they're going into the egg, and when they come out of it, they are bursting from an egg, right? Above there, I'll just get another picture up. We have the 12 over here. We have the 12 seahorses on top of the tower, right next to it. So we have the cosmos, and we have an egg. We have people going inside this egg. And just to confirm that this, I don't know if you, people will have to check out Unslaved's Dead Sea Scrolls series to understand more about the Amanita muscaria and its connection to looking like an egg, to looking like a phallus and things like that, generative parts. But that is not for this discussion today. Let me bring this back. Yeah, I'll just get one more picture because this one. So I keep talking about it, but it's best if I just bring it up. Really. See if I can zoom in on this here. So there we are. And the nighttime, they shine red lights on it, just like the Amanita muscaria mushroom. So we have these interesting facts along the way. As the Civic Centre isn't too far away from Hadrian's Wall, but there is this kind of weird feeling that there's many homages being paid to Mithras in this city in coded form.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be trying to. Well, it's like, you have the mushroom and you have the. It seems like it's. Well, I mean, because it's the mushroom, right? But it's also the cave. So it's a mushroom and it's a cave. And the vibe is very much like, hey, let's come inside this cave and let's eat some fucking mushrooms, is the vibe I'm getting from it. And you have the serpents up there. So it's like, let's go into the serpent goddess's cave and eat mushrooms. That's basically the vibe I'm getting from the whole thing.
Take a look at this, bro. Take a look at this. Okay. Here is a Mithraic cave. Sorry, that is exactly what I was supposed to get onto next. This is why I love doing shows with you, man. This is a Mithraic cave. This is where they would usually have. In fact, I think the original Mithraic cave at Coventina, the one I'm about to talk about, it was built like a cave. It was built underground. Certainly that the altars, I think the ancient Britain one was a cave, and then there was a Mithras temple built next to it above ground. So I didn't exactly get that right, but yeah. So there you go, and yeah, it is a Mithras cave where all the councillors and the politicians in this town go to do their business. So again, they may not know it or not, but they're inducted into this military cult, and they're all part of the ritual, just like everyone in the city is part of a big ritual. Every day, getting distracted by their daily tasks. They don't know what they're sitting on. They don't know what they're surrounded by. But thank you for bringing that up. I felt like there was something missing there, and you brought it up, man. Yeah. So let's have a look where we at now. Okay, right. Now, there is a fort. Now, there's a few. There's a Roman town, at Colbridge, which is to the west. Then after that, further west after that, along the Hadrian's Wall, there is another one called Chester's Fort, which we talked about last week with the estate on it. And then further along from that, there's another one called Brockalisha. and it's been completely unexcavated. However, the Mithras temple there has been excavated. Now, such a significant site, so to the point where they English Heritage have excavated it fully and made it look pretty, this little Mithras temple, which you have to walk. You have to walk through these desolate and unexcavated fort areas, to get to the temple. But why hasn't this fort been excavated yet? You would think that with the rest of the forts that had been excavated along the way, that there would be some interesting things to dig up there, to take a look at. So why haven't they? When did Mithras flourish in the Roman Empire, in the military? It flourished under Severus Septimus's reign. It spread throughout the empire, became a well-known, it became a well-established form of control, of brotherhood, of systemized kingship, standardized kinship between the military ranks, Now you try to look this up, and I haven't it's been a long time since I've researched these things, but they try to downplay that a lot, that Mithras did flourish under his reign, and that he didn't have much to do with it, but he allowed it and sort of encouraged it because he realized it was beneficial for his reign, for his rule. But there's something that tells me, I mean, that this is a really significant site. This is a major goddess worship site going back to before the Romans were there. So why? Well, it comes down to they must be hiding something. They must want something to get out from this fort, from the evidence from this fort, that would speak volumes about who truly built the wall, and also which wall Hadrian really built. And I'm just checking I haven't missed anything out here before we start reading from Comyns Beaumont, Britain, the Key to World History. Corrupted Druidism, Gnosticism. It looks like we're good. I'm going to get the quote up and ready. Now, a bit of a disclaimer here. Comyns Beaumont his writing is very dense, and if you want to understand it fully, you will have to go and you can look this up. Britain, the Key to World History. Put in next to it archive.org. That doesn't come up. Go to archive.org. Put in Britain, the Key to World History. That's all you have to put in. Actually, you don't even have to put Comyns Beaumont's name in. It'll come up. Click on it and start reading and researching it. It's free. I would suggest you go and buy his work in hardback, or if you can't afford that, pay for a paperback. Keep it somewhere safe. Teach it to your children, because there's things in there you're never going to get in a history book. But this is so yeah. This work is incredibly dense. We're talking about someone who found many connections with the ancient Jews, with the ancient Druids of Britain. Someone who saw them as prototypes for their influence throughout the world. It all connects back to not just to ancient Christianity, not just to Druidism, but to Judaism as well. As I said, to fully understand all of what you're about to hear, you will have to read the book and do your own research on it. So let's go then. Where do we start from? I'm just going to start reading. Simultaneously, the Jewish war, mainly guerrilla, raged from 66 AD onwards until 68. Vespasian was actively engaged in suppressing rebellion in Judea, Galilee, and other parts when Nero committed suicide. Vespasian left his son Titus to pacify the Jews and went to Rome, then to Alexandria to watch events. Suetonius says that Vespasian served in Germany and then in Britain, where he fought 30 battles against the enemy. We know of his conquests in the south and southwest of Britain, but what of the north, where the most serious menace to the Roman power existed? We possessed one item of interest. Petilius Cerelius was made propraetor at Camulodunum as successor to Bolanus by Vespasian in 71, after the fall of Jerusalem. He was a man who filled the Britons with terror and fought many battles. Now, before we go on, Jerusalem, in Comyns Beaumont's reading of it, was once Edinburgh. Wrap your minds around that. And as I said, you will have to read this book to fully understand what I'm talking about here. Cerelius had been a leading general in the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD and was entrusted by Titus with the task of storming the Tower Antonia and the temple adjoining. A few years earlier, still in Britain, he had been routed by the Silures, the Druids, and had to flee for his life. Then he is found prominent in the siege of Jerusalem, where he was left in supreme control by Titus when he sailed to rejoin his father in 71, the very next year, having meantime defeated Claudius Civilis in Batavia, Holland. He was again in Britain terrorizing the natives and propraetor at Camulodunum. Is it possible that this officer could have been rushing from the north of Britain to the present Palestine when communications were slow and dangerous? Or does it not intimate that the fourth region and the Silures, Jerusalem, and the Jews were closely related to one another in Britain? Titus offers another like problem, as does in fact Vespasian, that serious young men who spent several years with his father in both Germany and Britain as tribunus militum was given a legion in the Jewish war and captured Jerusalem in September 70, then aged only 29. Was he also being transferred from one extremity of the then Roman Empire to the other? At a time when in Britain almost every tribe or clan was in revolt? It does not make sense. Take another example. In 34 AD, when Hadrian had suddenly to encounter another furious outbreak of the Jews, he sent Julius Severus, then commanding in York, against them. Is it credible that Hadrian, while the Britons themselves were in revolt, selected his commander-in-chief in York, the Roman capital in Britain, and dispatched him to the extremity of the Roman world in the present Palestine? By as yet accepted geography, these military leaders were being shuffled. These great distances, undertaking long voyages or passing through hostile lands for the purpose. Surely we must seek another explanation for such acts. In the year 70 AD, when Jerusalem collapsed, the loss of life was prodigious. Orosius, the ecclesiastical historian, says that Vespasian ruined 1,100,000 Jews slain. So it's 1,100,000 Jews slain, starved, or sold into slavery. Josephus places the figure much higher, and he should have known. In the same period, the Iceni alone lost 80,000, which was a British tribe. Massacred, according to Tacitus, the whole country, and that certainly included the Clyde and Forth, was aflame against Roman cruelty and tyranny. And this is a quote, you see, from one of the chroniclers. He says, "Yet strangely enough, in this very year, AD 70, when the Jews were decimated and the Silures brought to utter exhaustion, Tacitus declares that a diet of Druids, probably in Eistfod, assembled somewhere in Britain and prophesied the ultimate world empire of the Celts. It was an astonishing prophecy to have been uttered at that moment when the Britons were sunk in the depths of despair. Yet it was akin to the fantastic and oft-repeated Jewish claim of an expected Messiah who was to obtain for them the hegemony of the world. In 78 AD, with guerrilla war still continuing in Britain, Agricola arrived and spent most of his time pacifying the nations in the region of the Clyde and Forth Isthmus, where he placed strong garrisons, and in 80 AD wasted the Picts' lands as far as the Torm, otherwise known as the Tay today. In 83 to 84 AD, assisted by the Roman fleet, he marched along the Scottish eastern coasts, probably reaching as far as the mouth of the Spey, and won a great battle against the Caledons, although in those bleak and mountainous parts, it gained him little beyond glory. Agricola's movements point inevitably to restlessness and danger to the Roman arms in the Isthmus region, and his attacks on the Picts and Scots beyond were a campaign designed more particularly to prevent them from giving aid to the Gadini, another British tribe, and others. These parts of Britain, south of the Forth, were the original Illyria, or I propose, Siluria. In those times, and long before, where are the Lothorians, so named after Lot, who in the Arthurian legends is king of the Orkneys? Was this tribe called Gadini by Ptolemy? The name recalls not only the relationship of the tribe of Judah with Gad or the Gadites, but also Herodotus appears to have referred to Jerusalem as Kedidis, and to have compared it in size with Sardis, then the greatest commercial city of the world. Apart from the strict watch imposed by Agricola and his successors in these parts of Scotland, placing garrisons in the neighbourhood of the Bodotra, Firth of the Forth in Scotland, some 50 years later, a queer event happened. The Emperor Hadrian built a military wall called the Catrail, shutting in the Lothians, tribe of Lot, the Lothians, and Edinburgh, Jerusalem. It should be recalled that Hadrian, AD 117 to 138, a peaceable emperor, spent much of his time in Britain, and he has left many traces in York and in other parts of the north. In 134 AD, he was faced with this determined uprising of the people of Jerusalem, with a new Messiah who held the Romans at bay and fought them with desperate courage for 2 years. With his capture of the city, and utterly weary of the Jewish priests and politicians, whom no generosity or conciliation could appease, it was said Hadrian ordered the ancient city to be razed to the ground and forbade the Jews to approach it under peril of death except for 1 day in the year. The very site of Jerusalem was said to be forgotten by the world until Constantine rediscovered it. Let's have a drink here. Because this is where it gets good. Hadrian is mainly remembered in Britain in connection with the long wall between Tynemouth and Solway Firth. But like so many accepted inaccuracies in our history, that was not his wall. The Tyne wall was erected by the Emperor Severus Septimus in the 3rd century AD and was not mentioned in any record before the Notitia in 400 AD. Its length is only 68 miles, but Hadrian's wall, according to Spartian, was 80 miles long. That emperor, he said, adjusting many things there, was the first to make a wall 80 miles in length to divide the barbarians from the Romans. It could not have been the Antonine or Clydeforth Trench, only 32 miles in length. The wall in question was that known as the Catrail, Cat Rail, coming down from the centre of the lowlands, of which many traces remain. It enclosed the eastern parts from Kinneil or Port Seton, just north of Edinburgh, and descended by way of Galshiels, Selkirk, Allan Water, and the rivers Liddell and Esk, a distance of about just 80 miles. It was linked up with the chain of forts, the design being evidently to pen the people inside the eastern barrier from contact with the friends of Rome. It was related to his war against the Jews. It seems likely that Hadrian personally inspected this great work, for we find his friend, the poet, Florus, suggesting his northern visit. No wish have I to be Caesar, to wander through the British lands and suffer from Scythian frosts. So what of Edinburgh in this connection? Were they the barbarians against whom Hadrian had designs? There are several traces which suggest that of old time the people shut in behind the Catrail were the Jews, called Gewissi by Geoffrey of Monmouth. Vortigern, an usurper who ruled in these parts, was called the Earl of the Gewissi. The people of Albany, aided by the Picts, made war on Vortigern, who had usurped the throne of the British king Constantine and who had seized a part of Albany as well. He retaliated by sending to the Angles of Scandinavia and asking help from the nobles of that nation. In 449 AD, Hengist and Horsa crossed the sea in their longboats and soon sent for their kindred, telling them of the feebleness of the inhabitants and the richness of the land. Hengist helped Vortigern to throw back and defeat a large number of Picts from Albany or Fifeshire, and as a guarantee of the future to prevent such forays, the Gewissi prince gave him the land for a castle called Caer Cory by Geoffrey, otherwise Castle Carry, in the centre of the Antonine Wall, once very strongly fortified. Was therefore this region inside the Catrail, stretching down to include much of Northumberland, the country of the Gadini, the true land of the Jews, whence they trekked when they were originally expelled from the Wessex country? Gildas, who hailed from Dumbarton, the son of a king, describes Edinburgh as Caer Eden, Civitate, Antiquissima, but almost this most ancient state possessed no known past history, and yet Gildas must have been aware of certain facts to have made so strong a statement. And I could go on. I just simply love reading this work, but there's a lot to unpack there. What do you think about that, Caleb?
Yeah. To give a modern example, Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon, is named after Portland, Maine, but they're over 3,000 miles apart. And the idea that what it sounds like Comyns Beaumont here is saying that Jerusalem was actually, the real Jerusalem was located in Edinburgh, Scotland. And I don't think he's saying that there was no such thing as a Jerusalem in the Mediterranean. But I think what it means is that ultimately the Jerusalem in the Mediterranean is named after the original one. It's like not the other way around. Portland, Maine is not named after Portland, Oregon. It's the other way around. Portland, Oregon is named after Portland, Maine. And I would say the Jerusalem in the Middle East is named after the Jerusalem in Britain. So, with the passing of 2,000 years, it can be skewed to well, first you erase the memory of the one, and then you just make it look like everything was in the other one. So, in other words, it's not a accepted fact that Edinburgh was ever called Jerusalem, so it's not up for debate in the first place. But if it was really proven or shown that that was one of the names for Edinburgh, then you could go down the road and start debating, well, which one was named after which? Was the one in Scotland named after the one in the Middle East, or was it the other way around? And then you could really start looking at these things like these officers that Comyns Beaumont is talking about, officers who were stationed near Edinburgh, but the Emperor of Rome is dispatching them to handle revolts of the Jews, which is supposed to be happening in Jerusalem and the Middle East, which is so, if there's a burglary call and if there's a bank robbery in Portland, Oregon, are you going to call the Portland, Maine sheriff's office to come handle it? It doesn't. Why would you do that? So why would the Roman emperor call somebody, one of his officers who's stationed nearby to Edinburgh, Scotland, to go handle a situation that's happening in the Mediterranean and Jerusalem? Wouldn't make sense.
So here we have a little video that's been on YouTube for a long time now. And it's a video called The Catrail, otherwise known as the Picts' Work Ditch. Now, it's interesting that it's associated now with the Picts, and it's well hidden. And, there's something else I have to show you out of the Freemasons. This is Comyns Beaumont. This is writing from Comyns Beaumont that's displayed in the video here that I've just read out, actually. And but yes, I've actually looked this up, and this, it's known as it's associated with the Picts, and there it's called the Catrail actually stands for a linear earthwork. We don't know what happened, right? We don't know whether that Hadrian got some help from some of these groups that thought they could survive the whole onslaught. They saw that the Romans had the might. They'd already taken over the Hadrian's Wall area, which I'll show you with what in a second, because we'll show you who. We show you what Severus Septimus actually, his original wall, and what was built was actually a linear catrail cutting across where Hadrian's Wall is. It was originally just something called the vallum, which was a linear earthwork all the way, it was a linear ditch all the way across, just like you're seeing on the screen now. There, the catrail. This mysterious line going north, actually, from Hadrian's Wall all the way up, which cuts off which cut off the kinsmen, according to Comyns Beaumont, of the ancient Druidic groups, the ancient Druidic clans, and where he assigns them, which was the ancient Jews, or at least prototypes of the type at that time. Yes. So there we are. No wish have I to be Caesar, to wander through British lands and suffer from Scythian frosts. That we will go into also how the next time on this podcast, we'll go into how the Romans actually hired Scythians, employed them on the wall, and how they fully integrated and possibly made deals after when the Roman Empire was beginning to dissolve and they were heading out of the Hadrian's Wall area and fully integrated even with their conquerors. And we'll also talk about how this was in their culture, how they were able to, even though when they got conquered, they were singled out, but brought into the fold of the conquerors because they had tactics and things that they could use that were valuable to the conquerors. Anyway, that's all for another podcast. That's for the Scythian portion that we'll go into next time, I think, because I got a bunch of quotes for that from it's called, the book's called From Scythia to Camelot. But yes, so let's just conflate the two. The Druids were the ancient Jews. They were in league with the Picts, or some of them were the Picts. The Romans came. They made deals with either the groups of Druids that they conquered, or the ones that were already corrupt, and looking to make deals with the power brokers of the conquerors. And they found out ways. This Catrail, I'm going to try and find this map. And I'm not sure if this is a map of the Catrail, but this is probably the best visualization I could find on it, just to give people a picture in their minds about where this thing went. Over here, and there we see Hadrian's Wall there. And I think, because this red line's a wall, I think this is the Catrail here. And they just built a massive ditch, cut them off from their people. So there wasn't just this line here, Hadrian's Wall. They also had these, almost shattering the power node structure, the whole geomantic positioning of the land, everything that the Druids had became used to, everything that we were talking about astral projection last night, if that's even possible. Then this would surely disrupt it. This would surely really get their backs up and irritate them being so connected to the land in ways that we can't even imagine anymore. So there's that. And also, one more thing from this book, hinting at another secret, just to further cement the ideas that we've been looking at here. We have, when I find it, amazing book. I wish I had more to look at, but this is called the Balaam Lodge. What's so important about the Balaam that you'd make a whole Freemasonic? This is the linear. As you can see, the Hadrian's Wall is there, right next to it. Severus Septimus, according to Comyns Beaumont, built the wall. Was it Hadrian who built the Balaam? Was it the Picts? Did the Picts help the Romans build these Balaams and Catrails? Well, at some point, I want to get into the idea of Gnosticism and the idea of it being a kind of corrupt Druidism, an inverted Druidism in a way. And I want to just get into how it really originated, and the deals that were made, and the celebrations, the commemorations that are still made to this day. The Balaam Lodge. Again, posting secrets. And there's other banners in here which I'd have to give a bit more of a disclaimer to and talk about a bit more in detail. But that was the original Hadrian's Wall. It wasn't a wall; it was a ditch, a linear ditch, just like the famous Cathedral that no one can seem to put a pin on or track for very far these days. It's very mysterious and it travels through largely uninhabited areas to this day, through the moors, through the land of the Gewissi, Gadini, as Comyns Beaumont said. If you wanted to say, did you want to say something on that, bro?
Oh, man, I had something slipped my mind. Yeah, the names of the tribes. Well, I came across a little quote recently that was, let me see, connected the Eburones, Eburones, or Eburones. Let me see. So Eburones, tell you, it's a Celtic tribe, and it says here, this is coming from. Oh, what do you got there? Hadrian Law.
I was just putting it up, but don't let
All
it
right.
distract you. Go ahead.
So this is coming from the Celtic Empire book by Peter Beresford Ellis. I just came across this talking about when Caesar was busy conquering Gaul, France, the Celts. The tribes were ready to rise against Rome, stung into action by the death of Dumnorix of the Aedui. Indutiomeros, however, knew that he must break the belief that the Roman legions were invincible. He entered into an alliance with Ambiorix and Catavolos, chieftains of the Eburones, a tribe whose country lay between Liege and Cologne. They took their name from Eburos, the yew, which was one of the most sacred Celtic trees. Now, have you heard of Iberu? Iberu was another word for Hebrew. So, Hebrew, Iberu, Eberos, Eberones, Celtic word for you. Now, you is where the word Jew comes from, because the J is also pronounced yeah, not just ja. So you're gonna find that there was a Celtic empire, okay, and that's essentially been whitewashed out of history. And like I said, Portland, Oregon is named after Portland, Maine, not the other way around. And a lot of the Jewish, we tunnel vision on this small category that we think of as a Jewish customs and everything, right? Those words and terms and symbolisms and traditions and things, did they invent them all? Or is there somewhere else we have to look to see where these things were named off of? What were the original things that these things were named after? Yeah, and I think a lot of it's going to be found in Celtic etymology, Celtic, so um, the the we got to look and see like about who venerated the yew tree. Was that a ubiquitous consensus across all of the Celtic lands, or was it we got to look into these things and don't get so tunnel visioned into etymology is really gonna crack this thing open, and another thing as well, that you were to touch on what you were just covering there about um, the Masonic lodges that are located up there in the region of Hadrian's Wall. What I see from what you're presenting is that it's not just merely Masonic lodges that are there, just sort of donning some local symbolism incidentally, just because it's like, oh, well, we have our Masonic lodge here, so let's use some symbolism from the local area. It's not as simple as that. No. No, no, no. No, you can see how they're really investing quite a lot of time and energy and money to build these architectural civic centers, and it's all playing on a very specific strain of symbolism. And you've just fucking exposed where it's coming from. The Septimus Severus dynasty, yeah? And please confirm, did I hear you correctly to say that Emperor Elagabal was descended from Septimus Severus? Is he genetically related? Yes, he is. Okay. So now, um, people, you guys need to go back and watch Tracking the Grail on Novocastrian's YouTube channel. And by the time you finish that, you'll really um, see this whole picture here. But um, so what we have here is you have King Jesus. Okay, that's going back to 10 AD, right? Yeah, like 10 AD, or no 78. Fuck. No, Jewish revolt. Fuck, that's like 70 AD. God, they had a trick there where they um relocated those events of the
It gets
Jewish revolt. Yeah.
it gets real tricky around then. The way I figured it out in my head, maybe they heard something about something that was going on, because Ralph Ellis has found evidence. He's found evidence of there being a Jesus in the Middle East and around these pivotal times. So maybe they had found a Messiah, and they heard wind of him, and they kicked off. News traveled all the way over back into northern Britain. It was like, we've got a new Messiah. We're kicking off. We're gonna, and hence why, in the end, according to Ralph Ellis, Jesus, the real Isus Manus of Edessa, ended up in Chester's fort in Britain. um, a fort.
Yeah.
Sorry, a prison in Chester. Sorry, not Chester's fort. Sorry, that is on Hadrian's Wall. But yeah, and yeah, would and knowing that, no, you would kick off, wouldn't you? If your savior was being locked up somewhere down south, well, you would build a wall to stop him from getting down there because they'd want to go down there and take and um and free the guy, right?
Well, yeah. So
But before
well,
that,
you
hold
have
on,
those.
just one more thing. Just on. Is it okay if I just one little more line here? Let's just conflate them all because going back, just throw out all ideas you have of ancient Jewish people as in like what we got here today in terms of who the Jews are and all the rest of it. Very different times, very different connotations. And basically, I just look at them as another British clan, and another old British clan going back to very ancient peoples, very ancient races who were connected with the earth a lot more than we are now. They were Druids, they were ancient Christians, and they were Jewish people. And then you say had the groups segregate off into different denominations, into different places, and their places became the New Jerusalem became the New Jerusalem. The new Nazareth became the new Nazareth. Palestine became a new Palestine. All that kind of thing. So it's very confusing unless you start to really sort things out in your mind and meditate on this kind of stuff and read and research. But go ahead. Sorry, man. You can go.
Yeah. It'll be quite a thing to get into. But I think a definite strain that you can follow is the idea that Ralph Ellis shows pretty clearly that this this actual warlord that became conflated with Jesus, um, and the Mary Magdalene concept. This is referring there is a reference to actual historical people, including this warlord that ended up in Chester and ended up his wife and his children ended up in the south of France. Okay, then this is connected to the Merovingians. Okay, and later on, after after this dude ended up being imprisoned in Chester, England, and his wife and children ended up relocating in southern France. Couple hundred years later, you get Emperor Elagabalus, which revived the same cult that he was from. Okay, and uh, you know, Elagabalus is descended from Septimus Severus. Ends up using all the same symbolism, same cult symbolism. It's connected to the Mithra cult, Mithra, but it's really the Elagabal, Elagabalus stone, the phoenix, and you're seeing it up there in Newcastle. Well, the Masons and the Templars are essentially identical. Now, if you want to know the argument for that, you have to read this because this Born in Blood, Lost Secrets of Freemasonry by John J. Robinson proves that there is no gap between the Templars being burned in 1314 and the invention of Freemasonry in 1717. That's just when they came out of the closet. Of course, the Templars were being burned and roasted over coals. They had to hide their existence for a little while, you know. Um, but the Templars are connected to the Merovingians. Those are the people from the south of France who were, descended from Mary Magdalene. So the Freemasons are identical with the Templars. They're part of the same group, but they're a different group than the uh, Christian Church or the papacy, the Vatican, the Roman, and all this. So um, the Carolingian dynasty is associated with, and Michael Dosarian went into all this recently. You should go to Unslaved and watch who were the Merovingians. But the Carolingians and the Merovingians are antagonistic. So you'll get a really good key there. It's a good way to track this ancient history towards the modern history, because you can see how these opposing factions have sort of bled into the present day. So yeah, look into the Jewish revolt. Look into the Chester, England, where the leader of the Jewish revolt was imprisoned and built a temple inside of a Roman prison, and you'll learn about that and Tracking the Grail on the Novocastrian channel on YouTube. Look at how Emperor Elagabalus also got imprisoned in the same prison and built a copy of the same temple there. Okay, then look at the Merovingians and the Freemasons, which Merovingians claim to be descended from Mary Magdalene in the south of France. There's a whole mythology or folklore associated with Mary Magdalene's presence being in the south of France. Connected to the Merovingians, connected to the Templars and Freemasons. So you're tracking straight up to our times today, yeah.
And exactly, tracking up to our times today. Mary Magdalene was probably the one who inherited the Elagabalus stone, or at least her descendants. Anyway, yeah, we got to make this quick. So I'm running a bit late. Yes, Elagabalus was not directly related to Septimus Severus, but through his grandmother, Julia Mesa, he was related to the ruling Severan dynasty. Julia Mesa was the sister of Julia Domna, who was the wife of Septimus Severus and mother of Caracalla, Severus Alexander, and Geta. This made Septimus Severus the great uncle of Elagabalus. So yes, not directly, but he inherited it. Emperor Elagabalus inherited the Elagabalus stone from the Severan dynasty. And it is interesting, isn't it? We've got the Kaaba in the east. We have them, having a giant stone, and then to control the people of the east, and to represent as royal, as the royal successors of the area. These people are worthy of such a huge empire, is the statement they're making there. And look, we have our own Kaaba stone. And even the Mecca, the stone at Mecca is supposed to be there. There's tons of rumors about that being the Elagabalus stone. But anyway, getting back to it, we have another banner here. We have the Hadrian Lodge Hadrian Lodge banner, and it says, "Let us rise up and build." Well, what did you build? Hadrian, why are you on a ship? Well, Comyns Beaumont says that you took down stone by stone the great temple of the Jews and took it over to the Middle East and built it up stone by stone in that place. Is this the ship that took those stones, or part of that fleet that took those stones? I wonder. Why isn't the Hadrian's Wall on there? Why isn't the Valum on there? We've got a ship here, but that's interesting. maybe that's the ship he was on, traveling, going to these areas from one, the Middle East to Britain, back and forth again, like ridiculous accounts are supposed to be, quelling uprisings here, there, and everywhere. But somehow I don't think so. And as you were talking about there, the Templars, the Wallsend Freemasons, they really think they're something, because they have a Knights Templar preceptory, and they're wearing Knights Templar regalia. And as we know, the Templars were proficient at keeping secrets and hiding them. And I think it's clear what they're telling us here. They think they're pretty special, these Wallsender Freemasons. They're holding something. They're holding something secret, worthy of the because you'd have to get permission, right, to do this. Like, again, they want to feel special, don't they? Just like the Mithras cult made their military special enough to take on the might of the Picts and the Druids, which is basically why they took over so many sacred sites along Hadrian's Wall. Anyway, is that it? Do we have anything else? We have a lot more for next time at 2. My family's about to come back, so I have to go. I have to sign off here. What a terrific podcast. It was a bit uneasy there at the beginning because I'd lost my notes and my track of thought there, but I hope you followed us all the way through and you found this of some benefit in that. I've done the information here justice. At some point, maybe we can go over it again, just make sure that we've covered all our bases and maybe do it in a bit more of a succinct form. Yeah, down the line or something like that. Give this work a bit of air to breathe. As I said, this will be restreamed on YouTube. And I'll be in there in the chat. We'll be discussing the ideas that have been thrown around in this podcast there. I want to thank everybody who's joined us. It's fantastic to see every time. It's such a sublime format here we have to connect with people around the world, and I am absolutely for it. I think it's a brilliant thing, and that this is the exact reason why this technology should have been invented for and should accommodate. It's if there's one thing I'm thankful for this kind of scenario, it is that. Again, Caleb, I want to thank you so much for taking us on, because without your quotes and your research and the things that you just wanted to share, we probably wouldn't have been here, or so we've been thinking of a way to get this information out. And you and some of the things that you came up with helped me craft my own work that I've done in the past on this very subject. Again, I'd like to thank Jen for all her contributions as well. She's helped me focus on this topic as well, researching it. And I can't wait until the next one. It's excellent the way this came out, and I'm happy it's going the way it's going. What about you, bro?
Thanks, man.
No problem, man. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you on the next one, next Tuesday. If all goes to plan, we've managed to keep it up so far, amazingly. Everyone take care and have a great night. See you later.